That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Drop, the fourth film directed by Sarah Adina Smith, which premiered at the 2022 Tribeca Film Festival and is being released on Hulu January 13th, 2022.
The director?
Sarah Adina Smith.
Do I know their other films?
Probably not, but I remember back in 2014 I reviewed her debut, The Midnight Swim, which is very indie, but a lot of interesting things going on. I never saw Buster's Mall Heart, starring Rami Malek, and Birds of Paradise, her last film, was okay. Technically a studio film that I do love Jacqueline Bisset, but about these a psychodrama about two girls at a Parisian ballet.
I didn't care for this movie.
I didn't either. I was intrigued at the concept because it reminded me of, it's been years now, but there was a television series that lasted one season called The Slap, which is about the resulting trauma of somebody slapping a child.
Oh. The basic story is there are 8 friends who are traveling to this tropical island to celebrate a wedding. Mm-hmm. 2 of the 8, own the little resort where everyone's staying, and then there are the 2 who are getting married. That couple, a lesbian couple, they have is it a toddler or newborn?
Yeah, it's a young child.
So that baby, another member of the party is holding it and drops it, on its head. And that's within the first 10 minutes.
I think it's a her.
A her, the baby.
Drops it.
And so, of course, that's super cringy, right? No one wants to drop a baby. And then the rest of the movie is just everyone, it just doesn't amount to anything. It ends with the couple still getting married. The main couple we focus on, though, is not the couple getting married. It's
Lex and Manny, played by Anna Konkle of the series Pen 15 and Jermaine Fowler of Coming to America.
Lex is the one who dropped the baby. Mm-hmm. So she's kind of going, I didn't want to make it sound like it's that heavy, but she's kind of going through a crisis. Uh-huh. And then her husband or boyfriend, it wasn't clear to me if they're married or not. He does call her his wife, but I don't know. Anyway, he's sort of at coming to the realization that maybe she's not who he thought she was and who he wants her to be. But in the end, they are still together. She says, well, I can be what you want me to be. And then they move to New York.
Back to New York.
And that's it.
Basically, yes.
I just thought I felt like I was duped because the premise is super cringy, right? Mm-hmm. This babe, you read the premise and it's oh my God. And then it doesn't take us anywhere. It's not, I would assume for that opening that this needed to be a very dark comedy.
And it should have been.
And it's not. It's just these 8 adults being kind of ridiculous.
Yes, none of whom are likable except for Jermaine Fowler.
He's the only nice, likable person. Everyone else is garbage. So I just...
But in that way, that's also caricature, right? That these are all none of these read to me as real people except for maybe Lex as...
Every moment this film is obviously trying to be a comedy, so there are humorous moments. I did chuckle a couple of times, but overwhelmingly, I was just sitting there this is not giving me what I need at all.
Sure.
To make me deal with, a baby being dropped on its head.
Right. That, and the gag is after the baby gets out of the hospital, it has to wear this, head helmet for...
Which is,
3 months.
You think it's funnier than I do, but...
I chuckled at that part because they're oh, that's a long time. I chuckled a couple times, namely at Robin Thede from the Black Lady sketch show.
Well, we should go through the characters. So the lesbian couple, they're pretty... The one is of the lesbian couple, one is an OBGYN and the other is an attorney. The attorney...
Mia...
They find out, has registered to carry a gun, a concealed weapon. So everyone's concerned that maybe she's a Republican. But that joke doesn't go anywhere.
No.
At one point, she does finally admit, okay, fine, I'm a libertarian. Okay. But it's their baby who gets dropped.
And she's played by Aparna Nancherla of Search Party.
Then the couple who own the little resort, they're played by...
Jillian Bell, who's usually funny, and Joshua Leonard, who co-wrote... this film. It's also from Blair Witch Project.
And their deal is, they maybe aren't doing well financially, so they're trying to convince their friends to invest in but that plot point's very mild, and it seems like they're not happy in their relationship. And then the fourth couple is...
Utkarsh Ambudkar and Robin Thede and their adopted kid.
And they brought their teenage son to the trip are on the trip as well, and they are successful. I believe her character is like a successful writer. They clearly have money because they're being asked for money.
An actress as well.
And so I don't have any notes because nothing really stuck out to me. I was pretty much annoyed the entire time.
Yes, it again, it's okay to be uncomfortable and annoyed, and sometimes I like that in a film, but again, it doesn't transcend that or really take me anywhere. Go a little deeper where it kind of needs to go with these people as are they friends? You know, these are people that should start to realize, like, why do I even talk to this person anymore?
So the teenage son, he is like popular on social media, and we see him make a video where he's talking about like sex and relationships. But then later on in the film, it seems like he's very curious about sex. Mm-hmm. So we see him asking like one of the guys and two of the women about sex. And then we see him sort of fetishize Lex because she used to be his babysitter. I didn't think that made any sense. And it wasn't edgy. That kid didn't even feel like a teenager.
No, it felt like bad slapstick. And some of those scenes where he's talking about to Peggy, played by Jennifer Lafleur, about how long can a teenage boy go without ejaculating. It's like those felt like scenes that are cut short. Like, where was the joke?
There was no joke. And then even the actor, the doctor opposite him, she kind of goes like, oh, and then literally cut to the next scene.
Right. With the most painful scene though is the rehearsal dinner.
Oh my God! The night before the wedding, they have the rehearsal dinner, and there aren't that many people at this wedding party. There are only 8 adults, including the couple getting married and one teenager, and each couple has to entertain the group. And that shit was so cringy.
It's so bad. I think that's where you really relate to the Jermaine Fowler character, who's kind of going through it in that scene, but I thought he was just going to get up and leave, and I can't believe that.
Because the couple who own the resort, they get up and do like a timeshare pitch, trying to get their friends to invest. Then the one lady who's an actor, she gets up and does like a one-woman like monologue about how like resilient she is in her career.
But the other place I chuckled though is when her husband introduced her. She's like, Shauna, Alexandra, Mahogany, Renee Roberts.
Oh God! And then Lex and her man, Manny, they get up and perform "This Is How We Do It" by Montel Jordan, but they adjust the lyrics to make it about the wedding. Mm-hmm. And that's where we see him like check out, mm-hmm. like he doesn't want to be there, and then he runs away and stays the night with like this family,
this local family,
and on this island everyone speaks Spanish. I wasn't clear which island they're on. Even that wasn't funny because he doesn't speak Spanish, so he's talking to these people and they're just being nice to him like in a very generic way. It doesn't amount to anything, and even when he leaves, they just kind of go. Well, the only joke about that is that because he doesn't speak Spanish, he's trying to tell them what's going on, and he basically tells them that a shark ate his wife, mm-hmm. so they all feel sorry for him. Mm-hmm. But it's just like the beginnings of jokes, but like there's no punchline to anything.
Yeah, it's like with the set. There's this setup there, and you're constantly left at this cliffhanger of like, do you want me to laugh or cry or just be bored?
I just think I keep repeating myself, but I just think if you're going to open with something so cringy that everyone can relate to, which is the fear of dropping a baby, then this shit needed to be dark as hell. I was expecting, like, we see the baby have health problems and seizures, like something real awful. Then there's a point where the woman who dropped the baby confronts the mother to tell her she's sorry. And the lady goes like, don't worry about it. I still love you. One day you'll have a kid. I'll be the godmother. And I was 100% sure she was going to say, and when you have that baby, I'm going to drop it.
But she does punch her in the head.
Yeah, but it's just like even the obvious things that like, it's not edgy enough. This movie felt like something that would have been made like 10 years ago.
Sure, or longer actually.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the interesting thing of Jermaine Fowler, he calls his mother to ask her about like dropping babies, but without giving her context, and so then she becomes super paranoid and she keeps calling and texting him like.
I did think those were cute moments where we FaceTime his mother and then we FaceTime Lex's mother, mm-hmm. I believe, and yeah, those moments were better. I don't think that this movie is poorly constructed. I just don't think it works as a comedy, and I feel like it's just a ploy to get our attention. Like, oh my God, a movie, they're calling it The Drop, about a baby that gets dropped on its head, and what transpires is nothing.
It's like something got ruined in between the log line and the final product. I don't know. That makes it just not enjoyable.
Because if you remove the baby dropping, then how many movies are there where like a group of friends come together over the course of a dinner or a weekend trip and truths are revealed and relationships devolve? Sometimes they're ultra dramatic, sometimes they're comedic. Like this plot structure is very familiar, so that's why I think I'm annoyed, because like they just took a very familiar thing and added the baby getting dropped at the beginning, but it's like it doesn't play into anything really.
No.
Because none of the friends are. It is important to note that Lex, the one who dropped the baby, initially she says, oh well, I dropped the baby because a bee stung me. And then we find out that's not true, and her husband finds out she's lying, and that doesn't go anywhere. No one confronts her about it. The one friend with last name Bell,
Jillian,
she confronts Manny, and says, like, you know, sometimes animals in the wild eat their babies because they're threatened by them.
The instability, the environment, etc.
How it's going to change their life. So just so you know, implying that maybe Lex dropped the baby on purpose, which could be interesting, but the way it's presented here is A, ridiculous, and B, never followed up on.
Well, just how it's like, well, not everybody has this mama bear instinct for other people's children either. Like, what her big reveal to Manny is that she saw a bee and she thought of herself instead of thinking about holding the kid, and that's why she dropped it. And it's like, well, that's a natural human reflex that we can also all relate to, and why aren't we discussing how if it's not your baby, you're not thinking about that kid's safety.
Also, the mother of the baby who was dropped, you know, is the one with the gun. Mm-hmm. So we didn't explain that initially they hand the baby to Manny, mm-hmm. and then Manny passes the baby to Lex, and that mother never confronts the guy, mm-hmm. which I found unbelievable. Like, why did you pass my baby along and then that lady dropped my baby? They just... Well, none of the people in the story are asking the obvious questions and having the obvious confrontations.
And that reminds me, like, the more interesting subplot that it actually gets to is that Lex was actually sexually and romantically involved with
members of this party.
with one member of every other couple, including Mia, the bride.
Yeah, she had a lesbian relationship with the bride. She had sex with the other two men of the other couples, and that's never... I mean, it's announced enough that we knew it, but it's like, that's not a thing. I don't...
And how those blurred boundaries play into the drama of this traumatic situation.
I feel like I'm rambling. What would you give this movie?
1.5.
I would give it 1.5 out of 5 as well. Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.